what is the key problem with the supply or lack of supply of quality inverters for the UK market for it to be able to grow?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's something which an emerging market like the UK is going to struggle to understand. They're obviously thinking about getting installations done, and they're surprised that they can't now get a product together. And it's mainly come down to the fact that the market near collapsed at the end of 2009, and the beginning of 2009, and the return to high demand in the industry has really surprised pretty much every single company. They weren't expecting demand to come back so strongly and so quickly. And then this was sort of compounded by the changes to the feed-in tariff in Germany, which meant that strong demand continued well into 2010. So we had 4 back-to-back quarters of very high growth, and subsequently all the inverters have been sent to Germany. Everything that anyone can produce has been sent to Germany. And in addition to this, all the inverter suppliers are suffering massively from component shortages. No one can get their hands on IGBT modules or micros or capacitors and so on. And it's simply because it was not just the PV industry that had gone downhill. Everything else, every other market had also gone downhill. And production of these components took a long time to ramp back up, and they're still ramping back up, which is why no one can get their hands on the components, and hence no one can build the inverters in time. Well,
you also mentioned in your presentation that there's many new entrants coming now. Now they're seeing the demand for inverters, many new entrants, but where are they finding the components?
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because it comes really down to the fact that the new entrants are not actually doing the manufacturing themselves. So a lot of them are outsourcing their production to contract manufacturers or OEMs based in Asia. And if you look at a company like Phoenix Tech or Flextronic, they're not just in the inverter market, they're in pretty much every other electronics market, and they can buy billions of components and quickly switch their production to inverters if they need to. So that's why some of the new companies are soaking up a bit of demand, because they're using contract manufacturers to do all the purchasing for them.
Does the shortages in string and central inverters mean that we might see greater adoption of microinverters, even though people claim that that's even more expensive than conventional inverters, but simply that these could, for you to be able to install a system, at least you've got the microinverters, and you can actually get a system done, get paid for it, instead of waiting 20 weeks for an inverter.
That's a very good point you make, and probably one of the biggest winners out of this shortage issue has been microinverter companies. So a company like Enphase has managed to capture a significant share of the US market last year. So they gained something like 7 or 8 percentage points in market share just in the final few quarters of 2009, simply because they could deliver product on time. And it's really kind of sparked a surge in people using microinverters now.
So, and I guess that there's a problem with the microinverter companies. Many of these are still small companies. Their ability to ramp, even though many of them outsource, they've got to have the capital to do that. That's a challenge, even when they potentially can be used. Is there also a challenge with microinverter companies to educate the marketplace as to their capabilities? I don't get the sense that microinverters are really that well known amongst installers.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, because maybe from a UK perspective they're not so well known, and probably most of the people in the conference today, if we talk to them about microinverters, they really have no idea about it. Having looked at the microinverter market for the last 4 years and met with all the companies, I think they're doing a pretty good job of educating certain markets. So they're focusing mainly on the US, so a lot of installers and integrators in the US will be pretty well educated about microinverters. And they haven't really targeted Northern Europe at all. They've targeted a little bit in Germany, but mainly they're focusing on Spain and Italy. So I think once they turn their attention to markets like the UK, the education will go there, and people know more and more about microinverters.
So despite of the obvious problems with inverters, we have a lot of problems with shortages in high efficiency modules. But put that together, what is your forecast for installations this year in the UK, and what would you hope we could reach from a megawatt basis in 2011?
Well, I mean, it's a difficult question, but it's kind of an easy question in a way, because very little's been installed so far. So it's not as if we've got an impending change to the feed-in tariff. There's no cuts coming. I would expect something around 50 to 80 megawatts this year in the UK, compared to globally, probably around 11 to 12 gigawatts being installed. And then next year, because there's going to be a drop-off in the German market and the Czech market, the supply issue will change. There'll probably be a fall in prices of components, and a lot more product will start going to other markets. And I think the UK market will really start to develop it in 2011, and we could see well in excess of 150 megawatts being installed next year.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time.
No problem. Good to talk to you.
Cool.